Aha, I think I'm live. I'm live and I'm nervous because I scheduled this. Scheduled, depends where you come from. And that gave me time to just worry. I don't know why. One of the things is that would it start recording automatically? It didn't. It gave me a cue. It said it was waiting for me. And then nothing happened. At any rate, I'm here. My name's Jeremy Broun. Please join me. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Well, in the back of my mind, one or two things, but haven't really prepared this. But you can see in the background a rather magnificent view of the city of Bath. And I took this photograph a few years ago with a VHS camera from a hot air balloon being piloted by the son of one of my clients in Bristol, and he gave me a last minute free flight in the basket in the hot air balloon. So I took a few shots, obviously movie shots, but my camera worked, that my hand was shaking all over the place, so I've just taken a still here. But the reason I put it up is I've just spent a couple of days making a video called The Crooks and Nannies of Bath, and if you're English you'll understand that is a spoonerism. It's called getting the words the wrong way round. What I mean to say is the nooks and crannies of Bath. So it's not a crime thriller. Welcome who's just tuned into me. Please say hello, say who you are, where you're from, and while I'm waffling away, not really knowing what I'm saying, but I'm going to play a bit of guitar music, please feel free to ask me any questions about woodworking, but anything else that you think I might be in a position to answer, and hopefully you'll engage with each other. I think I've probably done about half a dozen of these. It's quite a challenge in getting the sound levels to tweak. I seem to, if I turn the knob up slightly, I get real distortion. Then I'm getting the fan being picked up on my computer today on one of the microphones. So fingers crossed the sound quality won't be too bad. So I wonder how you're keeping. We're now, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks into lockdown. It's going to last a lot longer in England. I wonder how you're coping. Are you planning anything? I mean, I haven't planned this live stream really. I've just got literally 2 or 3 bullet points. One of them is Eric Clapton. So what am I going to say about Eric Clapton? We'll come to that in a minute. And one of the things I'd like to show you tonight is one of my many projects is a guitar that I am modifying. It's the basic rectangular shape is called a traveller guitar. You can see how novel it is. The machine heads are in the body, so it's for travelling. I had planned to busk around Europe this summer. In fact, I had planned to go on a cruise ship and see whether I could get the captain to hire me playing guitar, but I wanted to make everything lightweight, and what I've done is this is a prototype. I've added the 2 cheeks which bolt on and therefore will fit into a very compact bag that will go in the cabin above. But I've used Brazilian plywood, and one of the things of interest is that I saw a video, an American video. I don't know whether you can see the end grain there, but it was a YouTube video saying 50 ways to cover up the edges of plywood, and I thought, why on earth would you want to cover up plywood? It's a beautiful material. The whole essence of the material is in the laminates, and to feature those laminates. So it's like, well, hang on, what are we doing here? Are we saying that plywood's an inferior material and we have to apologize for it and cover it up? I would say, on the contrary, it's a superior material used to make aeroplanes during the last war. Still is used by some aircraft builders, So at any rate, that's one of my projects, one of my many unfinished projects. So welcome. Please introduce yourself, say who you are if you'd like to. I mean, the whole point of these live streams is they shouldn't be a monologue from me. I mean, if you want just a guitar performance and for me to shut up and just play, I'll do that. But I don't actually think I'm that good enough guitarist to play without kind of some sort of chat as well. Hello Eddie, good evening to you. Hello Joe, hope you're well. Right, Eddie, I didn't get a chance to check out the UK Men's Shed Association, but I will do. And so thanks for that. I've just been very busy. I've actually been very busy practicing a song that some of you will know that certainly in Britain on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock we all bang our saucepans as a show of strength and unity for our National Health Service workers. And I've got a balcony, a veranda on the back of my house, and I thought I'm going to risk setting up my guitar and a PA system and play what seems to be the National Health Service lockdown or coronavirus anthem, which is Somewhere Over a Rainbow. So I've been trying to learn this, so sometime this evening I'm going to play this, but it will be very raw. I'm still learning it, but that's what takes up my time, just learning the lyrics and finding where which is a verse and which is a chorus, learning the chords. I don't even know what key it's in. I think it's in an odd key. I think it's in A major, in A sharp, but I'm not sure. But I'm literally playing by ear. And in fact, the reason I mentioned Eric Clapton is that he does a fantastic jazzy version of Somewhere Over a Rainbow with a few other celebrated musicians, and it really is good. And I was tuning into that, and I've got what I think is a really nice, catchy backing track. So I could start with it. I mean, why not go in the deep end? But I warn you, it's going to be full of mistakes probably. But this is a song that I hope to sing at 8 o'clock. Not sing, but play, and hope that my neighbours will join in and sing for the National Health Service workers. Really am raw. Really difficult tune to do, but please, while I'm playing, ask any questions you like about woodwork. Please don't leave me stranded on my own. This is a two-way thing, so please, woodwork, if that's what interests you, or even music or guitar making, guitar playing, please engage. hardly hear myself through the headphones. I don't know whether you're asking any questions, but I don't see any coming up on the screen, and this is what's happened before. Apparently there are questions, so can somebody just give me a nod or just say whether there's anything that's come up after Joe has said greetings. Now, I used a bit of cello there, and one of the tunes I really want to work on is a jazzed up version of The Swan. I don't know if you're whether you enjoy classical music, but The Swan is a classic cello piece, and it's done to a piano accompaniment, and I used to be able to play it on the cello, but because I've got a cello synthesized cello sound, which is a bit tricky, I'm going to do the backing and a synthesized cello, but it's going to take a lot of practice. Okay, so there are 4 of you watching. Please engage with me, ask me something. As I say, I made this video with the background. I went out for my daily exercise and I made a film called The Crooks and Nannies of Bath, and I actually came across 2 police officers in one of the parks that I was riding my scooter through, and I thought, look, I better ask these guys. And I said, look, am I okay? I'm on my scooter, I'm combining my daily exercise because I'm going to park the bike, do a bit of walking and take a few photographs for a film I'm making, and then I'm using the scooter to go around to a shop and do a weekly shop. And they said that's fine, provided I was exercising, because those are the rules. But I felt a bit guilty, and my only excuse is that I wanted to make a kind of feel-good film, and it is. I've had a few nice comments so far. It's quite an uplifting film. I've done some background music and made a kind of mini documentary out of it. It's basically an alternative tourist video on Bath, because everything is about the Royal Crescent. I mean, it's unbelievable how of all the wonders in the world, if you go to Egypt, you have to go and see the pyramids. You go to France, you have to see the Arc de Triomphe. You've come to Bath, you've got to see the Roman baths and the Royal Crescent. But there are so many other, there are lots of other crescents, but there are other more interesting little nooks and crannies. So hence the title. So there's no questions come in, please. I don't know whether I do occasionally have technical problems, and it's a shame if you've asked a lot of questions and I'm not able to answer them, because I can't see them on my pop-up chat thing, and I daren't click on anything because it will disappear. So we've got 8 people watching, so I'd have thought by now somebody would have said hello, which is what I welcome you to do. Just say who you are, where you're calling from, and what time of day it is where you are, and how you're getting on, how you're coping with lockdown. I've kind of volunteered to write an article on surviving and thriving during lockdown for the Woodworker magazine. Some of you might recognise the guy on the front of it. His name is Tom Lee Nielsen, the inventor of the famous Nielsen planes. But I'm doing a few articles, and my Art of the Carpenter book has been reviewed in here as well. But I'm working on an article basically which is to try and just share my experience of certainly cabin fever, because I've worked and lived on my own for many years, and you just have to deal with it. It's a positive in many ways, but you need to come out and make contact with the human race, and we're not, very few of us. Who is it who said no man is an island? Thomas Wolfe or somebody? No person is an island. Now this is very strange because there's no questions coming up. I don't know why. It's most unusual because I'm sure you can hear me, and my request is just to let me know whether the Yep, I knew I'd lose it. Click on the wrong thing. See, maybe I can risk refreshing it. I'm going to do that. If I refresh it, then maybe it will load it. Oh, we have this every time. This is why I don't do too many of these, because I don't like it when things go wrong. But that's one of the challenges of lockdown, that a lot of things are going wrong with our lives, and one of the things we've got to learn is patience. So I'm going to be patient and try and now you see I've refreshed the chat, and then the comments that were up there have disappeared. It's crazy. I'm still going out live. I've got 9 people watching. Please hang about. It's the thing is, I'm self-taught at all of this, and I've got big gaps in my knowledge. Let me try and get that pop-up box again. Here we are, pop-out chat. There we are. There are a lot more comments. That's what I had to do. I had to refresh it. So thank you for bearing with me. Just get my monitor back on the screen as well so I can see my ugly mug. Okay, a few familiar people here. Two Wheel Spy, good evening Jeremy. Good evening Two Wheel Spy. Saw your video around Bath today. Didn't realise you're quite posh actually. Right, well, we can talk about that if you like. The whole notion of who is posh. If you'd like to. That's quite an old-fashioned term. He doesn't seem to be seeing our comments. No, that's right. Hello, Susan, I think I'll win. Good afternoon. So it's earlier in America. Jaunt. Yeah. Anything now? Right. So please. Live chat is a mystery. Yes, Susan. Okay, so that's as far as we've got. If you've got, so I think I'm seeing your messages. Hello, Dave Craddock. I don't know whether you're a regular subscriber or you've just come across me by accident, but this is a very informal jam using music. Yes, Two Wheel Spy, I can see you've said anything now, and I'm saying yes, I can read that. And can you talk with a Scottish accent? Why would you want me? No, the thing is, I used to work in Ireland and I get the two accents confused. But I used to work in Scotland. I used to teach in a very tough Glaswegian school, and I tried putting on the Glaswegian accent, but it didn't fool anybody. But I did pick up a little, but I'm rusty. Ach, new. What do you think you're doing there? Hey, that Nicola Salmon. No, it's not Nicholas Salmon. I'm getting them mixed up. Alex Salmon. Oh, forget it. Don't ask me to do accents. But I was watching Michael Caine on Michael Caine, and they asked him if he's any good at doing impersonations, and he said, "Yeah, I could do a good one of Michael Caine." Hello, my name's Michael Caine. Not a lot of people know that. Oh dear. Yes, Rab C. Nesbitt, God, that's going back, and the hairstyle as well. I don't think Donald Trump has got anything on Rab C. Nesbitt's hairstyle. So we can talk about anything you like. I really, this is what I call my human contact dose today. I live and work on my own. I'm kind of used to being locked up. Just the way life pans out, and of course there are some people, dare I say it, who are screaming to be on their own. So I shouldn't joke that I'm very lucky. I have my own place. I have the freedom to move from one room to another. even though I'm not supposed to go outdoors. But some people, you know, who knows, you might be watching, you might be in the fifth floor flat in a high building. Few of us have a hairstyle during lockdown. Please feel free to wear a string vest like him next time. No, you don't want to see that. I mean, when I was younger, I had a reasonable body. But one of the things, talking about, you know, film culture, I subscribe to Amazon, similar to Netflix, and one of the things I do, apart from checking updates of the depressing news but not having an overdose of that, is I see what films are on and I add them to my watch list. So later on this evening I'm going to watch a film, and talking about Michael Caine, I personally think he's an underrated actor, and I watched Youth, which is a fantastic film about relationships, but just, even if you muted it, you took the sound down, each shot of the film is like an art picture that you could hang on the wall. A great film. But I also saw him, oh, I've forgotten the name, in another one, but he's a really good actor. So I'm not sure what I'm going to watch this evening, but there'll be something. I've completely forgotten, but that's the great, I mean, we're so spoiled in a way by technology, the fact that we can do this, and we've got good sound quality, we've got WhatsApp, we've got Skype, Zoom is another one. Another thing I'm doing that's in the film I made called Crooks and Nannies of Bath is I did a tiny clip of the song that the kind of band of musicians I'm involved with, I suggested to them that we did a lockdown song. So our main lead singer has composed a song called A Really Peculiar Day, and it's very catchy, and then I've asked all the others to record their parts, you know, with headphones on and on a mobile phone, and send them to me. Then I'll sync it all up, and it's really coming together. What's the name of the music in the video today? Guitar music? Yes, that's what I'm playing. I just had a go at doing Sometime Over a Rainbow, because I want to play that at 8 o'clock on Thursday when people are banging saucepans. But maybe I'll do a bit of my familiar stuff. I'll do a bit of Gary Moore, and it will give you a chance to ask any questions. Love Gary Moore. I hope the sound is alright. Anyone else here think Jeremy is a diamond beezer? I don't know what that means. Beezer equals geezer. A diamond geezer. Alright, talk amongst yourselves, please. Hi James, how are you coping with lockdown? Are you still getting a chance to work in lockdown, an opportunity to work in the Belver? Well, good question, James. I hope you are coping well with it. I'm actually used to this in a way, and well, I am, you know, 3 weeks in. Who knows if this goes on for 3 months? But I'm actually it's a funny feeling, but because I know I'm not the only person who's locked in, I don't feel quite so trapped. Does that make sense? And another thing, it's quite paradoxical that dominant culture today has people locked in and locked down on their mobile phones, in walking around in their own bubble, not aware of other people. So I thought, well, that's a kind of lockdown, because I think people are communicating far more now. They are kind of, if you like, imprisoned or deprived of what the freedom they normally had. But yes, I usually have a list of things I've got to do, my task list before I go to bed every night, and the variety to me is the absolute key to surviving, and change of environment. So today I literally walked outside. It was sunny at the front of my house. There was nobody out in the street, so I don't think I was breaking any rules. And I just went out in the sun for 2 or 3 minutes, and that was like a change of environment. That was like going to work. And one of the things I'm writing in this article for the Woodworker magazine, next month I'm doing an article on surviving and thriving during lockdown. And if you've got any ideas for me to use, please add them here. But one of the things is variety, definitely, and setting different tasks, and of which my watching, late night Amazon films is one of them. So, do you like a drink? Seems there's a glass of wine missing there, Jeremy. Yeah, I could do with a drink, but I feel reasonably relaxed because, there's some friendly people here and we're engaging. So, James, there's comfort and security knowing we're all in it together. It's true. And it's bringing out the best of people, which I think is really great. I mean, the government are in an insidious situation, whether you're left or right wing, whoever would be, at the helm, would have a huge challenge, because we are a liberal democratic society, and unlike China, where people are literally forcibly coerced into doing what the state says, we are requested. We have free will to a very high degree, and let's just keep our fingers crossed. But I'm just taking it day by day, and one of the things I'm doing is spending more time learning music, learning new songs, and also not feeling so guilty that I'm not being productive in a work sense. It's this kind of am I producing? Am I actually achieving anything? So it's a different agenda now. Now it's filling a time and keeping sane, and also surviving physically, emotionally. I mean, one of the things I'm talking about is doing body aerobics with 2 massive great G clamps. If you're a woodworker, weightlifting, whatever, and improvising. So unfortunately, it's bringing the best out now, but I'm scared once this is over and the money has to be paid about unemployment. Oh. Yes, unfortunately, when times are good, it's not so bad. It's just that we have more of greed. But when times are really bad, but let's not try and get too pessimistic about the future, because one thing's for sure is we as a human race are not very good at predicting. I mean, a few science fiction film and writers are very good at predicting the future, but all this, look at this scientific modelling on the virus. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, they landed up contradicting each other with their theories. So, you can predict and you can't predict. In the same way that this evening, in a very small, minor way, I couldn't predict how many people would be watching, and I gave about an hour's notice. I didn't want to schedule it too far ahead because I thought I'd get nervous and there'd be an expectation and blah blah blah. But it's an opportunity, yes. I mean, there's a Chinese saying, 2 men behind iron bars, one see mud, other see stars. I am an ex-school teacher, and I evolved into college lecturing, and then landed up teaching some of the most talented furniture makers in Britain and abroad. A great privilege for me. But one of the things I learned very early on teaching in secondary schools is everything is a matter of attitude, and people, youngsters at school, they bring their attitude to the school gates, and sometimes teachers just can't connect because of attitude, and especially when you teach in really rough schools that I did. I mean, that's how I started designing. I was teaching in rough schools in London and Glasgow, and in order for me to survive in the workshop, I had to create interesting things to really engage these kids, and wood is a wonderful thing for absorbing. So productivity achievement can directly affect mental health in terms of adapting to do something different. Yep, to do something different, absolutely. As well as familiar tasks. I mean, if you're a woodworker and say, for instance, you've got a shed, shed culture that somebody else spoke about. Sorry, I'm terrible at remembering names. Was it Eddie? Somebody asked me about that. Yeah, shed culture is, it's like commuting a few meters to work at the end of the garden, but it's your own space, it's your own freedom. You can lock yourself away, and there's so many things you do, like tidying up the space, sorting out where the screws go, little jars, or all your equipment, cleaning your tools, vacuuming the dust away. All these could be daily tasks. So it is a challenge. I think it's just worrying about the bigger picture. But I wish somebody could wave a wand, because if everybody around the world is in the same boat in terms of national economies, then for this whole period, I wish we could just write off all the debt and just print money as though it never happened. Because we are inventive. I mean, look, I'm an inventive, creative woodworker. There are inventive, creative scientists and economists and sociologists, etc. And so, we never go back in history. We are progressing, we are evolving. And this, they warned about it. They warned about a pandemic, and it's happening. But I don't want to make light of it, because it's almost unreal until you actually, somebody or somebody close to you gets really severely affected. So the message, as you know, is keep the distance. I don't like the word social distancing, but just understand it's a virus, and that's how it travels. Yeah, so Susan's asked James what he's doing. Eddie, you're getting reverb. Does that mean I'm echoing a bit? This happened before. I do have a few technical problems. Yes, Susan, you said improvising. That's 3 things, and also a sense of humour. Absolutely. Yeah, I've been watching, you're all probably far too young to remember him, but there was a guy called Victor Borge, a Danish musician and kind of stand-up comedian, and I was watching some of his early and late stuff, and his shows go on an awful long time because it's the art of suspense and suggestion, but it was so funny. And in a different way, in a very unconventional way, not the type of humour we're used to, certainly in England. There's a certain type of humour. I also watched Mike Reed. My God, he even apologised at the end. He said he was a bit near the bone. Near the bone, that I think that was, it must have been back in the 80s or 70s. But I mean, the attitude's just so different today that he'd have been lynched if he'd tried that today. So yes, I'm just reading some of the comments. Shall I play some music while you're talking to each other? I'm sorry, some of it is the same old stuff, but I'm going to do that rainbow one again because I need the practice. get it wrong. It's all muscle memory. I can't read music. I just have to keep practicing. Just talk about yourselves. Maybe I should do the piano. I don't even know what key it's in. I want to sing this at 8 o'clock on my balcony when everybody beats their pots and pans to applaud the National Health Service. But I may have to cheat and do a recording and pretend I'm playing the guitar. So you're the lucky ones that I'm playing live to you and making all the mistakes. But I'm hoping that people will join in and sing, because it is the kind of National Health Service virus anthem, I do believe. You know, somewhere over the rainbow. Okay, so I messed that one up. A bit like messing a bit of woodwork up. I tell you something, it's quite a good ritual to chop up a piece that goes wrong and burn it. I learned that from a friend of mine. He said on a design, yeah, it's the wrong key for me as well, actually. I can't find the right key, however, I have to work on it. But yes, he said when he did a furniture design, a prototype, you just chop it up and have a ritual, sometimes burn it, and you feel really good because it's served its purpose. You know, you've learned whatever you needed to learn, and then you move on and do a better one. And the same with, I mean, the memory is incredible because it's like, you know, I made so many mess ups on this tune that I could say, well, I've made such a pig's ear of it that forget it, find another tune. But you soon forget the mistakes you've made and you just try and improve, try and, you know, get it right. And it's like with everything, with woodwork, music. I mean, people like Eric Clapton, I mean, they probably started at the age of 6. I bet his dad gave him a guitar and encouraged him to play, and that's all they do. And so, of course they're good, you know, they're at the top of the tree. So, in Ireland, Joe, you bang on Thursday, but put a candle in the window, shine light at 9 p.m. Oh, that's a nice one. Reminds me of when I used to teach in Finland. They would put candles in the windows to say a way of, I think, just saying hello to everybody else, because a lot of the, you know, the year was cast in absolute darkness. You know, they don't actually, the sun never actually comes up in the winter in Finland. I think we have to count our blessings, I really do, and look at the positives and It is unreal. I mean, who am I to say? I'm touch wood. I'm fit and healthy, but there's no guarantees, and it's just this news media. It thrives on fear, so we have to have a sense of perspective as well. That, yeah, let's be positive. How are you constructing your box? Given a 5-year-old is involved. I don't think that question's for me, Susan. What about pots and pans and banging Thursday? Well, in England, Susan, as a mark of respect and thanks to our frontline hospital workers, National Health Service workers, some of them working without proper equipment, probably similar in America. We bang our saucepans at 8 o'clock for 5 minutes. I go outside the front of my house and the back of my house, because there's 2 sets of streets, 2, if you like, communities, front and back. And I'm thinking this Thursday of playing this song on my PA system, somewhere over a rainbow, and hoping that people will sing to it. It's just a little gesture, really, and this kind of crisis has brought people together in a really nice way like that. So this is very impromptu. I mean, I feel very guilty that I play the same songs. My repertoire is a bit limited, but talking about America and California, probably one of the most popular songs on the planet that are completely ruined. Favourite countries? Well, I've never been to America. A bit scared of America in a way. It's probably too big for me. I did go to Australia. I like that very much. Made a lot of friends in Australia, but I got homesick. I've come from Scotland. I'm a bit odd, really. I love Finnish design, and I've worked in Finland. Not sure about France. If you fall out with the town mayor, you could be in trouble. I actually quite like the south of England, but I love being able to escape. I'm very lucky because I live near Bristol, and that's a very good point to go east to London, west to Wales, north to Scotland, and southwest down to Devon. But welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely face, yeah, yeah. Such a lovely place. Yes, America is big, Robert. Robert, are you from America? I should know because you have bought some of my publications. But yeah, and if you are, where are you? We're very much about joints, grain, and wood selection. I like that. Woodworking is very much about joints, grain, and wood selection. It is. All those things are very important. Now, I always call joints something else. I call them connections, and that way you can have a much broader vocabulary of how you put bits of wood together, like whether you use screws or inserts or traditional dovetail joints, etc. But it is about jointing bits of wood together, and the grain and the selection. You're absolutely right. Right, Atlanta. I'm very ignorant about America. All I can assume is Atlanta is on the Atlantic coast, on the East Coast. In America, you have West and East Coast woodworkers, don't you? Because was it the East Coast woodworkers had a lot of very innovative stuff in the 1980s and 90s was coming out of America. But I love the attitude, people think big and the woodworking culture is very small and quite what I call well behaved in England. It's quite well mannered and at the risk of being rather snobby. I believe in excellence but not in elitism really. And somebody accused me of being posh. Yes, I have Scottish aristocratic roots on one side of my family, and the other side with church people. But I'm an ordinary Joe down here. In terms of socio-economic group, I'm probably near the bottom of the pile. The definition of poverty is unbelievable in this country. As far as I'm concerned, it's a lot of money. I shouldn't joke. There are some very poor people in England and certainly in America. My God, I hope this virus just sorts a lot of issues out. This inequality is absolutely crazy. However, who needs a social life when you can have a workshop? Wonderful. Yeah. Well, I talk to the wood. I hug trees, I talk to the wood, I have conversations with the tools. I'm sure the rest of you do that. It's quite normal. If people say, the first sign of madness is people talking to themselves, then they don't want to do live streaming because I'm talking to myself, you see. It's all virtual reality. However, California Republic. So I was doing Hotel California and somebody called California Republic has joined and he's made a comment with girls. Who needs a social? I'm trying to, sometimes these these comments come in and they're a bit disjointed because of the time lag. You don't know, you're trying to link who's answering what question, which is all the fun of it. It's great. And please tell me, I think it was Susan who suggested that I just play some music and just shut my mouth and play music, and then that gives you time to chat amongst yourselves or ask me a question, rather than try and do both. Women obviously can multitask much better than men, so I should concentrate on just playing the guitar and then talking and listening, of course, and watching. Many of us are hoping that this crisis brings us back to our better natures in the United States. Yes, I think the same here as well. It's crazy. Things had to change. I don't want to sound above my station, but in England we had Brexit, this terrible political thing that divided the country. For heaven's sake, either way the world would go on. And then we had climate change, which was the big global issue and the big focus of fear, and that Greta Thunberg, that young girl going around and talking to world leaders. And I remember making a comment to a friend. I said, you know what, while we're all obsessed with this, we're going to be hit by a pandemic. I said that probably around the time when it was just happening in China, but we didn't know about it. But I remember clearly saying it will either be hit with a pandemic or a meteorite. A meteor will hit the earth and the lights will go out. And so we have to adapt, but good will come of it. I think, you know, good and bad, it's the state of the world. It's always been that way. There's good and bad. But how are you dealing with the, I mean, you know, are you guys, are you on your own? Are you in family situations? Have you got space to move around? Are you self-employed? Is it really hitting you for six? I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm on a state pension. I don't get a lot, but my God, I'm very, very lucky. And I'm just trying to do my bit and give back and try and contribute. I don't know. Decided to have a sip of Jameson's. You're obviously a man for the whiskey, and I think you come from Liverpool. Is that so? I always thought George Harrison was one of the best guitarists in the 60s, and he was quite underrated. I really liked him. He was a very shy musician, because a lot of musicians are very in your face, and you know, like Lennon in particular was very assertive, quite aggressive really. I mean, I loved his music, Lennon, McCartney, but I just really loved George, and I think he was quite well respected as a guitarist. I'm not in the Beatles, but Harrison was an interesting one. Yeah, he was interesting, and the way their music changed and the influences they had with that Maharaja or Shabby Lanka, whatever his name was. So maybe we should all be having a virtual sip of whiskey here. People are having online dinner parties. They bring their food to the camera and they all say grace and then start together. But some of them can't get the same food, whatever, and they can't agree who's the cook. So anyway, it's amazing how creative we will also be. I'm glad we got a good northern contingent here. Eddie Flynn. You sound Irish. Is that an Irish name, Flynn? So forgive me if I'm not looking at the camera. I've got several screens. Ow! The strap is digging in. This is one of my hand-built guitars, if you've just tuned in. It's made of plywood, American black walnut on the back, 400-year-old walnut, top quality Vulcan spruce, and I use nylon strings, and it goes through a very sophisticated pickup system that translates to a synthesizer that gives me these different sounds, like piano. Whoops, I'm not playing very well tonight. There's a little box here at the bottom which is telling me to say something. Ancestors. Alright, Susan, you're married, retired, husband, teleworking, a grown-up son, college age, and a dog. I love that, all in a sentence. A potted introduction of who you are. That's great. It's interesting, you know. I like to get to know the people, you know, when I write my books and have my YouTube channel. I like to get to know who I am communicating with. Ancestors. Every Scouser has a bit of Irish in them, yes, of course. Yes, when I was working in the west coast of Ireland, Connemara, there were quite a few Irish people there. The Irish and the Scots. Yes, it's interesting how diverse people can have such similar interests. Scouser. It's a funny thing, you know, identity, and you know, God, there are so many arguments, points of view, things to, you know, a lot of young people in England, in Britain, their identity is understandably wrapped up with the EU, so they felt really angry when a lot of people in my generation voted to be independent, because and it wasn't all older people, it was 2/3 of my generation voted to leave, 2/3 of young people voted to leave, but you know, 1/3 is still quite a majority, but a lot of it is bound up in your identity. It's quite a complex thing, really. And somebody in a review of my book in the magazine referred to me. They said Jeremy Broun is regarded by many as being a router maverick, and I thought, what? And I actually immediately thought the word maverick has got a really negative connotation. But if anything, I was a pioneer. I mean, I wrote the first book on routing. A lot of the jigs and techniques I invented, especially the jigs, have been copied by manufacturers. And I wrote the very first book. So why am I, and I invented a lot of the techniques, so why am I a maverick? It's as though that the people who then started using the router, and a lot of them will have read my book and also the videos I've made, then started using it more conventionally. So because I'm innovative and think outside the box, then I'm regarded as a maverick. However, I wonder what you think about that. Susan, you said maverick is not negative here. No, that's very interesting, because of course it's a Wild West, you know, cowboy term, and a lot of your folk heroes or whatever were mavericks. But Donald Trump has been regarded as a maverick in a negative sense, so I think it's got both positive and negative connotations. But I was also, the book was reviewed. Now this is my little beef this evening. I have published my own hardback book. Now a hardback book hopefully will last. They cost a lot of money. And the reviewer said it's expensive. It's got 76 pages. Well, those 76 pages are actually cram-packed of 50 years of my experience. £20, which is what, about $25, will hardly buy you a router cutter. And it's a hardback, not a softback. And also, to have these books printed were costing me £13.50. It doesn't add up. It's not expensive. Our values are crazy. In the same magazine, another book by another maker was being sold for £48, but no doubt it was that thick. But just because it's that thick doesn't mean it doesn't contain the same, well, whatever you expect from a book, not least inspiration, but ideas, tips. And you know, for me to share 50 years of my tips, which I have done in this book, and then be told it's expensive at 20 quid, it's a bit disappointing, really. However, that's my beef, that's my complaint this evening. Yes, Robert said maverick has a very positive connotation here in the States. Good. Yes, I'm not sure it does here. A friend of mine, I was a little bit shocked, but then I shouldn't be so sensitive. But when you put all your energy into it and somebody kind of pulls it apart, or you feel they are, it's a bit hard not to kind of react. But he said it's a compliment. But I'm not sure actually. However, I won't dwell on it. I think more importantly, I don't think my book is expensive for 20 quid. And you see so many things are going to have to change after this virus because the economy will change. I mean, consumerism will probably change. Maybe things will last. Maybe people in the field of woodworking who already have learned patience, and there's a lot of patience involved in this lockdown, maybe most of us are making things that we hope will last. I mean, I've got a principle that when I make furniture, I want the piece to last for at least as long as it took the tree to grow. So as I use a lot of ash in my work, a typical mature ash tree is about 150 years old. Yeah, the world doesn't appreciate the cost to the author. Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I'd like to spend more time doing music. I think I've served my time in woodworking. I mean, I've written no end of books, no end of videos. I mean, I've got 750 videos up on YouTube, and I am getting to a stage of my life where time is really precious. I mean, I am trying to make the very best of this time, this lockdown time, being really productive. I have off days. I mean, I was a bit depressed today, and sometimes that gets on top of you. Other times you fight it. But to be positive and have a little... I'm a great believer in lists, because even if you don't achieve those tasks today, there's always tomorrow. And I don't mean tomorrow in the kind of Latin magnata, whatever it's called, mania, tomorrow will do, tomorrow never comes. I mean, don't beat yourself up. To have that list is a very good structure, and it could be a variety of things. It might be things foods you've got to buy for surviving this period. In my case, I had to go out and get some dog food today, and because I don't want him to run out. So own your status as a maverick. Redefine the word. Well, the trouble with words is the meaning's already been implanted in our consciousness, through its historical use. So you can't just suddenly... I mean, in woodworking, I've done exactly that. I've redefined the language we use. Instead of joints, I use the word connections. Because otherwise you get into... I mean, I'm a designer, and I've taught design, and design is very difficult to teach. And I've tried and avoid the falling into the limitations. I'm trying to find a copy of my book, Design and Making Wood, which is one of the hardback books I'm working on, which is rethinking the language of design. But you can, in a small way, change language. But in the bigger scheme of things, yeah, it's just funny, really. We learn prejudices at such an early age. There's so much. Sometimes I think we need a wipe clean of the hard drive, start again. Memory is both a good and bad thing. But have I thought about growing a beard? Jeremy Brown. Well, I'm Broun, not Brown. Could be Corbyn. Please don't associate me with Jeremy Corbyn. Sorry, that sounds terrible. But that is a terrible thing. Delete that out. Let's not talk about growing beards. I've got enough white hair as it is. I usually wear a hat because people. That's another thing. You see, people occasionally say, "Oh, your videos aren't bad for an old timer." Well, what the fuck does he mean by an old timer? I ride a racing motorbike. I play badminton with guys 20, 25 years younger than me. I don't see myself as an old timer. I see myself as a 35-year-old guy. If I think I am, then I am, and I tell my body I'm younger as well. That's another thing. I will regret not living to see the future wooden furniture of Jeremy Broun, given his skills and experience and language in wood. Yes, I've got hair. I'm very lucky. We need to move this conversation away from my appearance, because I don't really enjoy looking at myself. I used to be a good looking guy when I was younger. I didn't realise it. But we all seem to get old, and the trouble with youth is it suddenly disappears. You're young one moment, then you look in the mirror and you think, oh my God. And whether you're a man or a woman. And, you know, I've heard in the city in London, you know, that 30-year-old men were having facelifts because they were worried about getting old. But yes, you try to appreciate each day. April 15, 2020 is a historic day. It will never happen again. Absolutely. This moment cannot be repeated. This sounds corny, but I have an electric toothbrush and I have a timer because my dentist said you should really do your teeth for at least 2 minutes to get rid of the plaque. And it's such a chore and it really drags. So what I try and do is I read a book while I'm cleaning my teeth, and suddenly that 2 minutes goes really quickly, and then I think, my God, how quickly did that 2 minutes go, and the next 2 minutes, and goodness knows how long I'm on tonight. I've been on for an hour already, but you can never get that time back. And I envy your access in ATL. What's ATL mean? To woodworking clubs and stores and classes. Oh, asking Robert. So let's not worry about who's old or young, because there can be young souls and old souls, and also none of us know how long we're going to be here. Atlanta. ATL equals Atlanta. Sure. Hello, Gibran. I think you've attended one of these sessions before. How are you today? This evening? I think you're from Bradford. Is that true? Is that right? We are the lucky ones who are creative, who have creative resources. And especially woodworking and music is so absorbing. It must be difficult for people who don't have an interest. So what keeps you busy? What keeps you, what gets you through the night, so to speak? Highland Woodworking, I've heard of them. Oh, I thought that was a YouTube channel, but it's a store. How about the girl from Ipanema? Okay. Very Liverpudlian. I haven't played that for a little while. I should have these numbered so I can find them easily. when I learned this tune, The Girl from Ipanema, the chords are really quite tricky. I used to busk in Bath, and there was this really good singer guy. He was homeless. He was an ex-graphic designer in Germany. His marriage split up. He landed homeless. Very tragic. You meet some really interesting people on the streets. And I paid him £5 to teach me the chords of The Girl from Ipanema. And I thought I'd never ever learn them. And unfortunately he had a drink problem. He died of alcohol poisoning. But the next day I went down there, I was playing The Girl from Ipanema that he taught me, this Latin American Brazilian tune, and he suddenly chased me round the square with his guitar saying, "You stole my song, you stole my song." I mean, it wasn't his song. It was a song by Carlos Jobim in 1956 or something. But they're lovely chords. Flute is really difficult to play. You get all these glitches on the guitar. Been to Bath, have you, Susan? Used to play the flute. Let's have a virtual live stream jam then. The thing about practice is you never know. You just keep at it and then suddenly it comes together and you think, oh wow, that's come together. It really isn't wasted, I believe that. And if I had my life again, I always wanted to be an Olympic gymnast. I mean, I was a gymnast when I was younger and I could do a lot of the movements, not the Olympic ones, but I could do back somersaults off the floor and flip-flaps and Broun on the... Well, I used to coach trampolining. Tenere, being a top gymnast, one of my ambitions. But I think if I had my life again, I think I'd build innovative guitars, play them, and be a... Well, I am a musician, but I'm limited though. I mean, I'm self-taught and I just like to be so much better. I suppose it is an ego thing, I'd love to command a big audience and be up there playing like Eric Clapton. These guys, they're blessed really, because, I mean, I play with these musicians, they're much better than me, but they are really, once the audience start clapping and they get all the energy, the feedback, they're in a different world. I mean, there's no stopping them, they're on a high. All that adulation. The girls come up and kiss you and all the rest of it. And sometimes when I played with them, if I couldn't play a particular cause for what they're playing, it was real high energy stuff, I'd turn the volume down and I'd pretend to do the chords. And I was doing this once, and this group of people were looking at me as in amazement, and then I just raised my hands off the guitar. They nearly fell off their seats because I wasn't actually playing. Well, I had thought of having lessons, but I've just, it's rather like me teaching design to a hardened woodworker. You can't teach new dogs tricks. One of my videos is on the late great Chippy Mayo, who followed in the footsteps of Eric Clapton. He was lead guitarist with the Yardbirds and Dr. Feelgood, and he followed Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, and I had the great honour of knowing him because one of my woodworking teachers, it was her partner, and she's the bass guitarist in our band, and he came over to my house once and gave me a half-hour lesson in lead guitar. I mean, totally different league, but I was so awestruck I just watched him for half an hour. There was no way was I, could I even attempt what he was playing. It was a nice little personal performance, but it was very inspiring. But I have improved. I mean, a few years ago I couldn't even attempted lead, so I just work within my limitations. Same with woodworking. You don't need every tool under the sun. You can just choose a particular material, that wood that you're sympathetic to, a nice wood that works well, looks nice, have a few tools, and just don't be over ambitious. If you want to make a stool or a breadboard, or I was thinking during lockdown, trying to think of projects for people with limited equipment, of combining exercise by building a wooden yo-yo, because you can do those yo-yo on the string, and you do all sorts of stuff. You could do one of those on the lathe. But so yeah, so working within limitations. You came to Bath in 1983, 1995. Yeah, well, I think one of the things about music is there's technique and there's expression. And on the streets where I live, there have been some really good musicians, and a couple of friends said to me, well, so and so is really very, very good, but they lack expression, and somebody who's only half as good technically can have more expression. And I think the same with design and designing in wood. It's the expression of the idea that's very important, and people can get obsessed with technique. And there's a couple of they're Jimmy McGovern or somebody, Patrick McGovern. He's got a long hippie-ish looking guy, very long hair, unbelievable speed at guitar. Check him out on YouTube. He's one of the fastest, but it's just speed. It's like, wow, what was all that about? Difference between carpentry and woodworking. Well, carpentry is woodworking. It's working wood. But within the kind of hierarchy of wood, you've got fine cabinetry and design, which I was doing for much of my professional career. You've got joinery, which is a wonderful trade, because it involves jointing like doors, window frames, fitted furniture. Then carpentry is more basic: nails, hammer and nails, screws, site work. And then you've got all these other crafts like boat building and turnery and veneering as a technique in itself. But my book, The Art of the Carpenter, please buy a copy. Visit my website, Woodomain. It covers a whole spectrum of crafts. I built micro catamarans using very thin 2mm thick plywood, and then bird hides out of rough sawn wood, where the movement is, you have to allow for the movement of the wood, the shrinkage, and then very, very fine cabinets, etc. Wonderful material, wood. So I'll play something else then. It'll probably be stuff I've already played. lovely chords in this one. Good night, Eddie. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, I sold one book tonight. Oh, that would be great, actually. I need to sell them. I've got about 200 to sell. It's nearly Hopper's date here in England. It's getting a little bit dark. Do you know, I heard the birds sing today for the first time and I thought, my God, you know, how we disrespect nature. And, you know, the trees have been here longer than us, and, you know, all these birds were talking to each other and all their rituals. Because, you know, the sound of the motor car, certainly where I live, so I don't understand what you've said, Two Wheel Spy. No, I mean I bought The Art of the Carpenter. That's what I thought you meant. I thought that while I was playing, you bought the book. I don't know whether you previously bought it, because I haven't sold that many copies. And you obviously have a YouTube name. But selling is another thing. I mean, in the early days, when I was pretty well known, the woodworking magazines used to give me a free half-page advert for all my videos, and I'd just give them 10%. It was wonderful. I didn't have to leg out any money on advertising. I got lots of orders in, and I just just gave them 10%. It was very decent. And the editor at the time said to me, he said, well, it's a symbiotic thing. He said, you add quality to our magazine, but the thinking's so different today. The whole commercial mindset is far more narrow. I mean, when I wrote my book, The Incredible Router, I was flabbergasted at how some of the router manufacturers, they didn't want to be in the book alongside other manufacturers. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's unheard of. They were so narrow thinking. It was, corporations, the best form of competition. If their products are any good, then put them out alongside all the other ones. Let people choose. Oh, I see. Oh, just hang on a moment. I won't reveal your identity if you ask me not to, as I equally ask people to respect my privacy. But shopping cart, yes, an order has come in, so I'm presuming it's from you. But it's not, because it's from a different part of the country, so I'm a bit confused. However, I have sold one this evening. Now that's a mystery. Now I've lost the... Sorry, I'm being a bit... Well, that's strange, because you say you've ordered one and they've told me... Oh, right. Understood. Thank you for your order, Two Wheels Spy. Much appreciated, and I don't think you'll be disappointed in it at all. And I tell you what, if you like it, I'll give you a little bit of a discount on this one. I mean, this one is being sold for the same price, £19.25, but if you write to me individually, I'll give you a bit. I can't afford much because they cost me to produce. And I think, when push comes to shove, what's 20 quid for a hardback book? I mean, it's not a lot of money. It's what? A round of beers. It's not even that. And I've had good reviews on the router book, but I do need to sell them as well. Oh, that's kind of you, Susan. You said you'll look at my books. You don't have to apologise. The problem with selling is I don't like selling. I'm not an actual salesman. I've got enough on my plate, creating ideas, producing them, publishing my own books. I do my own illustration, all the photography, blah, 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 blah. All the content in this book has come out of my head. I haven't copied a single thing, because it's the router. That's my tool. That's the book. That's the tool that I explored back in the 70s and 80s when I wrote the first one. But to actually then have to sell them is really hard work. I wish I had an agent and I could pay my agent 10-15% and just let that person get on with promoting me, and then I can concentrate on producing. That's what I want to do. Having to sell, and because I always feel guilty. I think, well, you don't want me to be selling. You're here to engage for whatever reason, not to have a sales pitch. But I've got to sell those 200 books. I don't want to be 90 years old before I've sold those 200. I'm hoping to do a deal with one of the companies. But even the bookstores, they'll only buy one or two at a time. I mean, however, selling is a game, and this whole social media thing of selling, I find it very difficult. I don't know how you do. Don't worry about it. It's worth it. Thank you for the encouragement, because the review in the magazine today, they gave it 4 out of 5. I'll be honest about it. But they said it was expensive for a hardback because it has 76 pages. But those 76 pages are absolutely crammed full of tips and innovations, and the aim is to inspire. However, please give me feedback when you receive the book, and let's hope I can get to the post office and post it, because there are long queues, or what I mean is get it in the post tomorrow. Alright, so how are we doing? Should I knock this on the head, or are we happy to hang around? I'm really just, I see myself as a bit of a catalyst here to play a bit of music as well. I'm quite pleased with that shot of the Royal Crescent from a hot air balloon that I took. It was actually from video, and it wasn't, some of this pre-digital video actually is much more depth than the pictures. That was VHS, believe it or not. I don't think it was digital at all. It's not high definition, obviously, but it's a nice composition of picture. So, a little bit longer. Okay, that's fine. Joe, you entertain, we'll watch, but please engage as well. If you hadn't said at chat here that book it is, I would not have known. Well, this is the problem. And you see some of my backgrounds, if I could just show another background, I do occasionally show, if you bear with me, I can change the background. No, it's not that one. It's not that one. We went through this the other time. I've got ones with my books, publications. That's what I should have up on the screen when I'm talking about various things. In fact, I will quickly go through them. Now, my mouse probably won't show on your screen, so if I quickly go from top left, the Compact Toolbox ebook project, I think that's £7.95. It's got a couple of videos in it. It's online. It opens like a virtual reality book, and it shows you the plans. Encyclopedia of Woodworking Techniques, that's an award-winning book. I don't earn a royalty, but I bought a load of authors' copies at half price, so I sell them on, signed copies, but that was an award-winning book, published in 5 different languages, was republished last year. The Incredible Router is the one I've just shown you, and that's it, you know, for the books, or it gives a taste of some of the books, but that's what I should do, is put them up on the screen. So, what would you like me to play? I've got some Gary Moore. I've got some Pink Floyd. very important. I'm very lucky. I generally sleep very well, but if you don't sleep well, I feel for you. Sometimes when I can't sleep in the middle of the night, I get up and I make a sandwich, and what happens is the blood runs to the stomach away from the brain, and so it relaxes you. Well, it works for me. Kind of chill out music. Now, have any more questions come in? Any more comments? Or have I sent you all off to sleep? Is that what's happened? So I wonder what plans you have for tomorrow. Has tomorrow just started if you're in America? You're maybe about 5 hours behind, so you still have quite a lot of the day left. I'm going to watch an Amazon movie soon. There are some great films on there. McMafia, Animal Kingdom. Anybody seen that? These television series, unbelievable. Oh. Try Vice. Apparently good. Okay. Eating at night. Many of us are gaining weight. Oh, do the exercise. You must remember that's a big one. Lack of exercise. Yeah. Yes, films. Any good films? Oh. Shopping exhibition with a respirator. Oh, I meant to bring my respirator. I'm using a Trend Stealth half mask because they don't steam up my spectacles. But I think that's important. All this debate about whether they work or not, they've got to be better than not wearing one, surely. So a respirator, I think it's a good idea. What's the best motorbike I've ridden? Well, probably the ones I've owned. I've had a GSXR, Suzuki, parallel twin, love them. But I had my KTM RC90 stolen. That's a sore point. All my insurance is going to go up. Crazy. Sore point. Animations from other countries. Isn't she lovely? La 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 la. Da 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 da. What paintings are you referring to? Paintings in my earlier videos? I'm not sure. I mean, I'm an illustrator, but I don't paint. God, this one goes on. La 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 la, da 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 da. I'm sorry, I'm not being very energetic. I think I'm getting a bit past my sell-by date in terms of I need my caffeine fix. That's the thing. Coffee keeps me going. You see, you never know what's good or bad for you. You know, they say 4 cups of coffee is good a day, then they say it's bad. Oh, I don't know. Everything in a bit of moderation, I guess. So guess what I'm going to play next? Musing. Musing means thinking. Is that right? Contemplating, musing. Did you ever build a Finnish sauna? No, I've been in a Finnish sauna, but I've never built one. That's a wonderful experience. Very cleansing. Cleans all the toxins out of your skin. I've been in Finland where they jump in a cold and icy lake and then go and have a sauna. Tough people. So much is an accident to geography, you know, where we're born. It's very unjust in a way. Sauna comes before the lake. Yeah, maybe it does. It's a long time ago, back in the 90s, I was there. Yeah, it could be right. My favourite pieces. just so chilled out. Oh right, you speak with experience, Susan. The lake closes the pores and washes off the toxins from sweat that aren't reabsorbed. Oh, I thought the steam. Oh yes, the steam, you're right, the steam opens the pores and releases them. Well, I'm dyslexic, I got it the wrong way around. But you're right. Well, we've covered a lot of topics this evening. That's great. I always think woodworking on its own is a bit boring, to be honest, although I spent my life woodworking. I always think there's life beyond woodworking, but also woodworking embraces so many other things as well. I mean, I did my exam in England, it's called GCE. I did GCE A level, and honestly it covered everything: biology, botany, geography, certain amount of mathematics, history, did a little bit of history of design, plus practical work. So there we are. Hopefully we've all learned something today, that you take the sauna first because that opens the pores, releases all the poisons, then you dive headlong into a lake. You use an axe first of all to break the ice, and that closes the pores, and you dive shock. Alright, we've learned something. I was watching a video on YouTube last night of it was life up in the north of Russia, Siberia probably, and this woman in her late 80s could stay under cold water longer than anybody, and she said that she used her hands as a guide. Once her fingers started going numb, she knew it was time to get out of the water. So everything was getting out of control. That's what I feel about before this virus, and in a way it's nature fighting back. That's my theory. I'm not a conspiracy theory person at all, but I think there's a greater scheme of things, because the planet will be having a rest at the moment, and certainly people here, a few people are talking about having less reliance on the global market and maybe going back to growing our own food, and some people are already doing that. There's one or two really great survival videos on YouTube. I was watching a young couple, quite wacky it was, and they're stuck in Spain, and they were doing everything. They were playing table tennis, they were making using her sewing machine to make masks out of, you know, fabrics. And yeah, with a mask you can use woodworking vacuum cleaner. I forget the name of the term. It's in my book. I know it in the book, but I can't remember it. But it's very fine particulates, you know, and a bit of elastic band and a glue gun. Make a mask. In fact, the schools here are 3D printing them because the hospitals are short. It's terrible. We put the poisons back in. Woodworking next time. So, shall I play just one last number? You planted lettuces and kale. Oh, well done. I've forgotten what kale is. Is it like a cabbage? What shall I play? Hepper. Well done, Susan. You see, you're always learning it, even though I'm an authority on woodworking and an expert and an author. I'd forgotten that. I kind of knew it. Hepper. It probably stands for something. Do you know what it stands for? Health. Energized. Personal. Protective appliance. Oh dear. I'm actually quite tired. I appreciate you guys watching. I've no idea how many people, probably half a dozen or maybe less, as long as those who participated get something from it. I can't find the numbers. I'm trying to find 7 watching. It's been round about 7 or 8. Now I've lost the thing. Yeah, so I've lost that now. Any more comments, questions? So some of you have made friends with each other. Maybe we'll meet again here again. Hi. Cruciferous vegetable. It's a leafy green. Sounds as though you live out in the country. Particulate. PA's particulate. Yeah, for years I never wore a dust mask. My doctor years ago said the particulates are too coarse. They just get sneezed out or whatever in the mucus. We just don't know. And some timbers, of course, are far more toxic than others. So shall I play one last one? Electrostatic. Yeah. Maybe I'll play one last one, but what shall I play? Tell me, somebody. Ain't No Sunshine's got quite a nice beat. Kind of late night, not rural. Maybe I should do these once a week or so and have a little list of topics. I did start off, I've done about, I don't know, about 7 or 8 of these all together. You know, I bought the software and the camera. I've got 2 cameras, as you can see. and I started really preparing them, but they didn't, I don't know, they never, once a day really, crikey, that's what somebody else said to me, do them every day, maybe during this lockdown, but I to be perfectly honest with you, I feel that I've got a limited repertoire and of music, but I suppose I could be a DJ and put on other music, couldn't I? But I'm trying to learn new songs and everything. Electric material is ionized to attract and trap particles. You sound like a very clever academic person, Susan. I am just a simple carpenter and an aspiring musician and a world-class gymnast in my dreams. Can you talk about your 750 plus videos more? What, another time or now? That's what I believe inspired most of us to watch your videos. Oh, what has inspired you? Sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. I mean, the 750 videos are mostly about woodworking, but if you look at my main page, which I guess most people don't because they land on a particular video, but my main menu, I've got about 7 sections off the top of my head. I've got my highest viewing videos. I think what can you do with a router, I've got about 2.3 million views, and I've got what can you do with a hot melt glue gun, about 1.8, and then tube bending, pushing the limits, that's metalworking, about 1.1. And then I did a whole series called Just a Minute. I thought, you know, to talk about a topic in just a minute would be good because if people have got limited time. Then I've got routing videos, then I've got mini documentaries, I've got music jamming, I've got vehicle maintenance, I've got lots of different, oh well done, we got there eventually, high efficiency particulate. Wow, did you have to Google that? My videos have an artistic quality, I hope so. I mean, the thing is, the way I look at it is the way I made furniture. When I started making furniture in the 70s, there was no point me copying what everybody else did. I couldn't compete. I couldn't make, for instance, dining chairs cheap enough. So the same amount of work went into a rocking chair, but a rocking chair was more a work of art, more an individual piece, so I could command a slightly higher price. So I think the way I look at my YouTube channel is that there are millions of woodworkers to the highest detail, even in guitar making, unbelievable stuff, specialists. But mine, I know, is slightly wacky, slightly quirky, eccentric, whatever it's like, but I might surprise you in telling you that I'm highly trained in traditional cabinet making. I actually know the traditions, and that's enabled me to break away from tradition and, if you like, break the rules and create new rules. But it doesn't appeal to everybody. To be honest, my membership, my subscription's been around 76,000 for a few years. At least it's not dropping off, but it's not, you know, it's respectable, but it's quite modest. I mean, you know yourselves, there are people like Matthias Wandel, he's probably got, I don't know, 250 million or something crazy, and that's fine. There's something for everybody. But yes, from a selfish point of view, I find filmmaking brings together all my skills: the music, my art, my drawing, my illustration, the editing. I set up a company in 1988 called Thinking Ham Video, making documentaries. Now I share a few of my documentaries free of charge here, but I mean, some of them take a lot of time to edit. And I am monetized, but I'm not monetizing any of these, and I earn a small amount of money, sandwich money, very little money. because if you want to earn money from YouTube, it's the old thing of there's a guy called Steve Ramsey, and I find it a bit cheesy, but he's successful. If that's what he does to get as many people viewing, it's a full-time thing. With me, it's not full-time. I've got too many other interests, and I really only want to stick my head over the parapet when I've got something new to say or something to share, really. And love to learn a bit more music, talking about the videos and broadcast. I mean, the nice thing is the feedback, because you do get nice feedback on, I get the occasional unpleasant comment and the troll comment, and to be honest, I delete them, but I try and be democratic. If somebody really disagrees with my method or whatever, and they're courteous about it, they're firm, but they're not trying to patronize me, because a lot of people are into power, control, and all this sort of shit. Life's too short. But I think, well, I'll leave those comments on, because they're for the benefit of everybody, if you like. If, in other words, people who add something to the party, but if they're just destroying what you're doing and just being negative for the sake of it, then I'll delete them. I make no bones about it, because I want to keep the quality high on my channel. And I've watched a few of the world-class gypsy jazz videos, and my God, they need somebody to manage those websites, because some of the comments are absolutely appalling. I mean, for the caliber of the music that's being offered for free, they think that because freedom of speech is what we're used to in America and Britain and the developed countries, that you could just say what you like. Well, you can't. There's a limit to everything. So yeah, so the feedback is very good, and it certainly helps me shape my channel if I know what my strengths are, because I don't know. I'm just I mean, all right, I'm a trained teacher, and if I've got a message, I'll try and deliver that in an organized way. I mean, these are very messy because they're not edited, but normally if I edit something, you tighten it up, you get rid of the ums and ahs for a start, because that can be very irritating. And then sometimes I script, but I've started doing more live commentary. I mean, maybe at some stage I'll use an action cam on my head and go into the workshop and actually demonstrate something. Whoops, ouch. So I would build things differently from some YouTube woodworkers channels. Sorry, I didn't quite get that, Susan. Are you saying that you're learning how to build things differently from some of the channels? First book, the only book I bought on guitar making, was thinner than this book, and it was absolutely jam-packed with information. So although they say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but we all do, I don't think one should judge a book by its thickness, because there are a lot of really thick, expensive books on the market that are just padded out. They're just, lots of space, very little content. Not impressed. Now, I think we've got a lag on the comments that are certainly coming through on my computer, because I'm not sure, Susan, what you're not impressed with. I think I made a comment about Steve Ramsey, and then Two Wheel Spy made a comment, and maybe that was a... I mean, I think as long as we're courteous about it, I don't see anything wrong. And sometimes people ask me what my favourite channel is, so I think equally, I think if one's polite, one can say, well, I'm not that impressed with a particular channel, and say why. But everybody to their own. I mean, a lot of these things have a life of their own. I mean, YouTube must be changing. I mean, I've seen a huge improvement in woodworking generally. I mean, some of the young women doing it are really good. I mean, because it has been the domain of the male for so long, and there's a whole lot of new blood coming in. I mean, you know, for most of my life I was a rebel, and a rebel against the old guard, and now I suppose people looking at me will think, oh well, he's part of the old guard, you know, he's senior, he's old, whatever. And that's a point of view. Steve choices the way but well, yeah, don't get me started on the way people build, because actually I always think that if you're going to do tradition, then do it properly. But some of the methods are very, very quick, because it's instant gratification, isn't it? I mean, a lot of the videos, they're sped up and make it look as though, you know, you can make something very quickly, whereas just the finishing alone, to get a decent finish, takes time. But it's horses for courses. I mean, sometimes there's a case for making things quickly. Depends on what the function of the thing is. Just saw it was a modified silent. Yes, I made one of my guitar making videos is where I've modified a Yamaha Silent, which is a skeletal guitar, and I filled it in and put my backing tracks behind. But maybe I did one of them. I did a collage of the Beatles behind. Maybe that's the picture, but actually it wasn't my picture. Is the truth. Freedom of speech is wonderful, but the right to remain silent doesn't just apply when arrested. That's interesting. Yeah. Ooh, so well, you can always leave a comment if you feel like it after this video has been whatever settled on my, you know, on my YouTube channel. I think it takes a few hours for it to bed down, but we've covered some interesting topics. 2016, we're using a different guitar, really nice. What happened to it? I've got all my guitars, it's just that this one I'm playing, excuse me, is one I made in 2018. It's actually my favourite one, but I was going to play my Carvin. I've got a Carvin, wonderful guitar that I can feed through the synthesizer, and maybe on another occasion I'll play the Yamaha, which was my favourite for many years, and it's all wireless and all the rest of it. But the Yamaha is not connected, hasn't got the electronic connections for the synthesizer. So this and the Carvin, the one I've been playing tonight, and the Carvin, in fact, if you bear with me before I sign off, let's go to my guitar page. Oh, these are guitars I've made, sorry, not the guitars I own. I've got about a dozen guitars. I've got a wonderful PBS, it's based on a Les Paul, it's gorgeous. I'll show that. And if you missed the very beginning of my session, this is a project that I am modifying what's called a traveller guitar. This very rectangular thing, it fits in a tiny bag, and I'm using plywood cheeks, and I'm going to put electronics behind it and do my backing tracks, fit the backing tracks. Can't find it, but I've got a little recorder I use. And this is a lovely guitar. It's got a flat fingerboard, wider fingerboard, so it's like classical, but it's got got nylon strings. So when that's finished, I'll be able to play that. I mean, there just aren't enough hours in the day to do all these projects. I must admit, I do overload myself with projects, but it's my way of keeping sane. So if I end on the note that keep yourself busy and variety, feed the mind and the body, nourish the mind and the body during this lockdown, but generally, but particularly in this lockdown, because increasingly we are going to get cabin fever, and people will deal with it in different ways. But thank you very much for well, that's kind of you to say that, Joe. That's very kind of you, because I never, it's rather like being a teacher. You deliver a lesson and you don't actually know, well, was that lesson any good? But you're actually giving me feedback. So I won't promise tomorrow, but maybe give me something, a topic, a theme for tomorrow. Because it's good just to have one theme and then one can sort of move away from it. And if you can't think of it now, then please leave it on the comments, and then I'll good night, Susan. Thank you for tuning in. Like the putting in bath. Yeah, so if you can think of a theme or a topic, but it's good because this was unplanned and we've covered a lot of, the questions that come from you, and as I said, I'm fairly open. I don't have many taboo subjects, I suppose, as long as it's legal and decent, I suppose is the word. I forget who asked me, but somebody at the beginning said I'm posh, so I'm not going to let them get away with that one. So maybe we can explore what that's all about in 2020. However, thank you very much. I think I should sign off now, and rest well. And please leave a comment if you feel inclined to. My God, it's been another marathon. Cheers. Okay, bye for now.